students. In today's class, we'll be discussing more about arrays, how to use array function. Now, already we had studied compile time array initialization, runtime array initialization. Also, you got to know the advantages of array as well as disadvantages of array, and what is the out of bound concept while accessing. In today's class, we'll be discussing types of arrays, one-dimensional array, multi-dimensional, an example of some multi-dimensional. As has been mentioned, there are two types of arrays depending on the way elements are being stored. One is one-dimensional, another is multi-dimensional. So what is one-dimensional? As has been reflected in the PPT, one-dimensional or single-dimensional is considered as the list of variable of the data types, as each variable can be distinctly accessed by specifying its index in the square brackets preceded by the name of. Conceptually, we can think of a one-dimensional array as a row where elements are stored one after another. As you have seen in the PPT also, here you see we are taking the array name as VAL, and we are accessing the array elements by using the index val 0, val 1, val 2 up to val 6, because we are storing 6 elements. Whereas in the if you see the down side of your array, those are your memory location. So therefore, as you know, array gives you continuous memory location. So if you know the address memory location or address of the first element, which is here 88820, the compiler can compute the address of other memory components. Here we are assuming that each component is a 4-byte. Therefore, if first one is 88820, the second one is automatically becomes 88824. In C programming, we can create an array of arrays. These arrays are known as multidimensional arrays. One of the simplest form of multidimensional array is a two-dimensional array, which you also call as 2D array. For example, if you want to declare a 2D array of where you want to store integer value, can be something like int abc for the first bracket, which determines the first dimension and the size of the first dimension, and 4 in the second bracket, which determines the size of the second dimension, and ABC is the name of the array. A 2D array is stored in the form of a row column matrix, where the first index designates the row and the second index shows the column. You can also create similarly a 2D array. But whereas so for the representation is concerned, also you can visualize it as a row column, but so for the representation in the representation memory is concerned, the array is stored in sequential memory. If you visualize it by row and column, you can consider the first element as ABC 0, 0 means 0 row and 0 column. So therefore you need to the index for for accessing or referring to each element one or the row and another column. So here you can access or you can refer each element by ABC 0, 0, 0, 0, 2, 0, 3, then 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 3, and accordingly 4, 0, 4, 1, 4, 2 up to 4, 3. So therefore you have 5 rows and 4 columns. It is a 5 by 4 two-dimensional array. The actual representation of this array in memory would be, as I had mentioned, it is sequential. So therefore, if you want to store if you want to store these elements in memory, it has to be. So there are two methods which we follow for storing array information. Of course, multidimensional array. It is row major order and column. We follow the row major order. The first row element will be stored first, then the second row, and accordingly up to the fifth row. So therefore, first element will be ABC 00, second element will be ABC 01, then 02, 03, So this way first row is going to be stored, then ABC 1011 and accordingly up to 40414 up to 43. So here the representation that is being shown is a row major order representation, whereas if we follow the column major order, then first column element will be stored, then the second column, and accordingly up to the fourth column. Now this is an initialization of a two-dimensional array which you can follow for higher dimension also. Uh, there are two ways to initialize a two-dimensional array during declaration. Like for example, if you consider an array whose name is DISP and the data type is int and the size is suppose 2 by 4 means 2 row 4 column. So you can initialize it by using the curly braces. The first curly braces for the entire array and the second one is for the first row and the third one is for the second row. So 10, 11, 12, 13, these are the elements of the first row and 14, 15, 16, 17 will be the elements for the second rows. The same can also be initialized without writing the nested curly braces. It is something like as has been shown in the PPT, where I'm storing initializing the array by writing all the elements in sequence. That in that case also first four element will be for the first row and the second will be for the second row. We already know when we initialize a normal array, or you can say a one-dimensional array during declaration, we need not have to specify the size of it. Depending on the number of elements by which you are initializing, the compiler will create the size of decide the size array. However, that is not the case in case of two-dimensional array. You must always specify the second dimension, even though you can avoid writing the size for the first dimension. Let us understand this concept by example. Like for example, in the first case, here I'm initializing by providing both size for the first dimension as well as the second dimension. So ABC 2 2. Here 2 is the size for the first dimension and 2 is the size for the second dimension, and accordingly we are initializing by 1 2 3 4. So as I had mentioned, you can avoid writing the size for the first dimension. However, it's compulsory that you need to write down the size for the second dimension. So here A, B, C, in the first dimension I'm not writing the size, whereas in the second dimension I have written the size. So accordingly I am initializing. So the compiler will automatically create the size for the first dimension. But if you try to declare without writing the size for both the dimension, then it will give you an error. So therefore, for the third and fifth declaration is a invalid declaration. And this is a simple sample program where we have written a certain set of instruction for reading elements into the array and printing array elements from that. Here we have taken a array name is DISP whose size is 2 for the first dimension, 3 for the second dimension. So you can visualize it as 2 by 3 matrix and type is in. So therefore, as I had mentioned, you require two index for both the dimension or referring to both the dimension. So I am taking for referring the row dimension, J I am taking for referring the column dimension. So therefore, we have used for loop, to for loop, and we have taken the value from the user by asking enter the value for DISP, which is the name of the array, percentage, and accordingly we are scanning using the scan function. Similarly, we have used both the loop considering I and j for printing the value. Thus, in today's class, we have studied about the types of arrays, one-dimensional array, about multi-dimensional array, and how to initialize in the multi-dimensional array. And we have also discussed some examples by which we tried to understand how elements could be inserted in a multi-dimensional array and how it can be printed from a multi-dimensional the references are concerned, these are the references which you can follow. If you have any queries, you can always put your queries in the mail address given here. Thank you.